another really lovely human.
Yeah.
And it just worked out. Liz was looking for another artist to go in the show because Danny's not on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I just showed her one of Laura's pictures on, Instagram, and she's like, "Oh my God, she's great. Let's do it." And the
No,
rest is history.
yeah, she has some dope stuff. That restaurant, it's like a restaurant she drew or painted. That one she had like it was like on this side.
The one that said Martini,
Yeah,
it's an old movie theater,
that's
believe it or
amazing.
not, in Texas that's closed.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Isn't it?
It's
That's her
amazing.
most recent piece. She just gets better and better. That one she finished just before the show.
Wow.
They're very proud of her.
I'm just gonna move this for
Oh,
comfort.
sure.
That way, a little bit less
Yo, so did you see you saw that I got interviewed?
Yeah, man. I was gonna. What's it called? So I'm gonna be doing like an email blast.
Yeah.
Because I need to be doing more of those. But I'm gonna include it in there.
Yeah, they had all the shots from
It's
the
from. Is it from a publication in LA?
yeah,
Yeah, man. It was like Voyage.
Voyage LA.
At first, I couldn't bring it up on my phone for whatever reason. That's really more my phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting a new phone this week too.
Yeah. And at first I was just like, "What is this virus that John sent me?" So I'm like, and then I took a look at it because all my text messages also get emailed to me. So then I
Right.
clicked the link there, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is dope."
Mm-hmm.
Things you can ask me about is I ran a college art gallery for 14 years.
Okay.
And I just curated a all-girls show for a new gallery in London called Leakey Street Galleries.
Okay.
And it is all about urban and street art.
Oh, so I'll definitely bring that up. I'll just say like
Yes. And that opens online on March 10th
yeah.
in time for Women's History Month. And no, March 20th, excuse me, March 20th, and runs all of
So
April.
I'm gonna just say what stuff you got going on. And you
Oh,
can
I
just,
got lots of stuff.
You can just segue into that.
I'll segue into that.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
I'm also going to be in a show in Amsterdam.
Oh, there you go. Let
I
it
got,
flow.
I got things happening, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yo. Oh, yeah.
How am I doing? Is this okay? Can you hear me okay? I have a pretty loud voice. Years of teaching.
That's good.
I can project.
No, that's good. That's
Between
great.
teaching and waitressing before that, I got a booming voice.
Sounded wonderful.
Okay, good.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Como va, and welcome to episode I can't remember of the Super P podcast. It is I, Polo Parata. Another day, another podcast. Just came from Fashion Week. I was having a good old time at Fashion Week. Went to 3 shows. A lot of shallow people there, as always. A lot of fashion won't see nobody wearing. Josh is back. You know, Josh hasn't been here. He's been on vacation, doing a whole lot of who knows. But yeah, we have a special guest here. I've known this young lady for a long time. Well, not a long time, but I met her through Danny Cortez, the person I do managerial duties with. She has sort of like the aesthetic that Danny has with graffiti and stuff. We have some of the stuff on the wall. She's going to explain it. Miss Valerie Larko is here. How
Thanks
you
for
doing?
inviting me.
Thanks
I'm
for
so
coming,
happy
Valerie.
to be here.
Let me tell you something. It gets and Josh too. I'm talking to everybody in the room. It gets harder and harder to get guests for podcasts now. I don't know what happened. People don't like podcasts no more. So thank you for coming.
Well, I
You
love
know?
podcasts,
Thank
and
you
I
for
am
coming.
an NPR sustaining member,
There you go.
and they have plenty of podcasts, so
So-
it's all good.
So tell us about your art. Tell us,
Sure.
what's going on.
All right. Well, I've been painting urban landscapes on location since the late 80s when I moved to Jersey City, New Jersey, right out of art school.
Mm-hmm.
I moved in with a dude. He is no longer in my life.
That dude.
But the love of the urban environment
Right.
stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved to Jersey City in 1986, I'm like, what am I going to paint here?
Mm-hmm.
I'd been out of art school not that long, but I'm like, okay, I like to paint on location.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going out in the industrial parks around Jersey City and just painting, setting up a French easel and painting on site.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for a while, and I was like, this is fun. And my early work, like I said, was mostly industrial and then overviews of the city from the local park.
Right.
And then I went into the industrial parks, Jersey City is surrounded by industrial parks and bridges like the Pulaski Skyway. So I started going in and exploring these places
Mhm.
and then setting up my easel and painting. I started small and then eventually I started painting as large as I could fit in the back of my car, aka my mobile paint mobile. And so that was in the mid 80s. And then in towards 1990, I guess the end of 1989, I moved to Summit, New Jersey. I
Mhm.
rented a house. I had a couple of dogs. I rented a house with a friend from art school and I kept the dogs. I do. I'm a big animal lover.
Right.
Anyway, and adopt, don't shop. I totally rescue my pups. I got a really cute red-nosed pit bull right now, but we can get into that later.
Right.
Anyway, so I started painting in these weird places that most people didn't hang out in. But I was really interested in the sculptural qualities of the tanks and the industrial scene. And then I started painting bridges, the Pulaski Skyway, I've painted it multiple times, and other things, and highways. And I just was interested in urban water views. I was interested in all kinds of things that really surround the city,
Mhm.
but most people don't take a second look at.
Right.
And for me, it's experiencing the place in person is important. I prefer to work on location rather than from a photograph in the studio. And that's sort of a consistent thing. Even when I went to art school, went to school to be a figure painter. I thought I was going to paint people. But then you get out of art school, nobody wants to pose. And so I quickly thought, I got to figure something else out
So
here.
you were like in the room, like the guy was like just you sculpturing his body and stuff like that. You know what I'm
I'm
saying?
painting, yeah, I was
Yeah.
painting nudes, mostly nudes at the Art Students League
Oh,
and the
see?
National Academy of Design, and before that, I graduated from a little-known school in Plainfield, New Jersey called Ducre School of the
Mhm.
Arts, and, the one consistent thing is I always liked working from life rather than from photographs. Having said that, if I need a photograph, I'll use it. If there's trucks or cars on the highway and they
Right.
ain't gonna stay still, I'll take a snapshot, phones are so good for that,
Right.
and throw it in. A lot of times I'll even park my own car
Mhm.
in a scene because I can keep putting it back in the
So let me
scene.
ask you a question. So how many times your car is in your paintings?
At least a dozen.
Jeez Louise.
I've painted hundreds of
Yeah.
paintings
And and
over the
and, and you probably have some really like throwback Jersey scenes because you started from so long.
yes,
So you probably got stuff that's not even probably not even there no more.
well, going, gone. If
Yeah.
I've painted it, it's a good chance it
Yeah.
don't exist
Yeah. No, but
anymore.
that's awesome though.
So I am a little bit of a documentarian, a little bit of an urban explorer. I actually love the built world. And
Mhm.
I also like the way the built world interacts with the natural world. We think we build things and it's there forever. Not true.
Right.
It's the nature of civilization that
Yeah.
we build, we destroy, and we rebuild.
Right.
And we're always going to do that. Today's, modern high rises are tomorrow's ruins,
Mhm.
may take a century or more, but it's true. So, what I'm sort of interested in doing in all of my work, my early work up to what I do right now, is capturing places that will no longer be there
Mhm.
on their way out, that talk about the cultural history
Right.
of society.
Mhm.
And that's something that's just been consistent
Yeah.
in everything
Because
that I do.
even with the graffiti, like probably stuff you painted, it's probably gone. Probably they went over it. So it's like you have like dated stuff, which is awesome.
I do. I a time capsule. When
Yeah, no,
somebody
that's
said about some recent, I had posted some older work on social media, and somebody said, "Wow, this is a time capsule." It's like it's true,
right.
and just a little thing about how the graffiti got into
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
work,
yeah,
because
yeah.
and that's one thing I love about Danny's work too. What happened is when I painted in New Jersey for over 20
Mhm.
years, well, close to 20 years, let's say, because now I've been in painting in the Bronx for almost 20 years.
Right.
So let's say a little less than 20 years. There was hardly any graffiti. I was painting in industrial parks, urban water scenes, and there was only graffiti in maybe a couple of these paintings, a little bit. I got one really funny story.
Oh,
I'll tell you a funny story.
yeah, yeah, go
And
ahead.
this is why I paint on location because I love meeting people and hearing their stories. So I'm painting in Jersey City. It might have been on the Kearney border, but I think it was Jersey City. Yeah, it's definitely Jersey City. And I'm painting this commuter bridge, and there's some little stone things in the foreground to keep people from driving into the, I think it was the Hackensack River. You don't want them going off, especially at night when people go down there to party. So it's like, I don't know, a Tuesday at like 10 a.m. and I'm out there painting. And I see this car come up with a bunch of young guys in it, and they pull around and then they come over to me. And the one guy goes, "Wow, you're painting this scene." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You got my tag in it." I said, "Oh, cool." And then he tries to hand me a giant can of beer at like 10 a.m. He goes, "You want a beer?"
Oh my
And I
gosh.
go, "No, that's okay, but thank you." And then I go, "So which one is your tag?" There were only a couple. He goes, "I'm lazy." And I just laughed my head off. It's like, it seems appropriate
Right.
because, quite frankly, I thought this young man should have been in school.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, he looked like he was probably still in high school, you know? And
Mhm.
I just laughed, and it was funny, and he was just so thrilled
Mhm.
that his tag was gonna be in a painting. But that's one of the few times that there was any graffiti in my earlier work.
Right.
So then, because then after that scene, a lot of bridges and stuff, I also spent about 6 years painting in an active salvage yard in Hackettstown, New Jersey. Someone had seen my work in an exhibition and said, "There's this active salvage yard with all kinds of cool stuff in it." He had seen my tank paintings, my industrial stuff. He said, "You'd love it." So he said, "Come out here and meet me here." And I did. And he introduced me to the owners. And I said, "Would you mind if I painted?" And they said, "No, you can set up. We don't care." I wound up spending almost 6 years painting there, painting all of this crushed stuff that we throw out. You know, we have a very disposable society.
Mhm.
And let's face it, many societies have been at the end of the day. There's
Yeah.
always been those ash heaps of history. Anyway, this is one of ours. And what was interesting back then, the appliances that were in the salvage yard that were getting thrown out and going to be recycled, a lot of it was going to be recycled for scrap metal. They were avocado, they were harvest gold, they were white. You know, now I think if I went back there almost 20 years later, or it's approximately 20 years later, yeah, that it would be all silver and stainless, appliances. Things have changed.
Right.
So, in a way, that's a time capsule too of what we throw out. So, right as I was finishing up that series in 2003, I moved in 2004 to New Rochelle, New York, and then I started painting in the Bronx. The Bronx is exactly 8 minutes from where I live, right up the main drive there, and then I'm in the North Bronx. And I'm like, because when I first moved to New Rochelle, I'm like, what am I gonna paint here?
Mhm.
This is like alien territory. I'm used to painting things, that is part of my backyard, more or
Right.
less.
Right.
So I said, "Okay, what am I gonna do?" And I just started driving around, and then I started seeing lots of cool infrastructure, lots of cool urban scenes, and surprise, surprise, a lot of graffiti.
Mm.
You can see in the Bronx why it was the birthplace of what I call contemporary graffiti. Graffiti has been around with us since the cavemen.
Mhm.
You know, those murals, that was graffiti.
They've
That
been
was
writing the walls forever.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember being in, I think it was Guatemala with my husband. We were looking at some ancient ruins, and we had a guide. And the guy goes, "Oh, come over here. Look at this graffiti." It was scratched in the wall like centuries ago.
Mhm.
So I feel like people have always wanted to make their mark on the wall or whatever. And what I have found, as graffiti became more a part of my urban scene because it's so prevalent in the Bronx, is that people really want their impermanent mark to be part of the permanent record.
Right.
Everybody wants to be heard. Even if they're anonymous, they still want to be heard. So I've had guys come up to me and say, "If I put my tag on the wall, will you include it?" And I say, "As long as you don't cover up anybody else, I'm not getting into any
Wow.
turf
She knows the rules.
I know
I'm
the rules.
impressed.
I know the
Wow.
rules. So
That's
I say,
awesome.
as long as you don't cover up anybody else's thing. And
No, sir.
sure enough, they do it and I add it. And
Right.
everybody's happy.
Right.
So it's a win-win,
Yeah.
because eventually people's murals and tags and everything do get covered up.
Mhm.
It's the nature of,
But that's why I say you're doing a service because you're including it in your work, so it's like they'll live on forever.
They are.
You
They
know,
are. They're
so
part of the
that's awesome.
permanent record. But it's just like the other time capsules, the industrial tanks, the things we discard in the salvage yard, the appliances, the gym equipment.
Hmm.
You want to know how much gym equipment winds up in the
Yeah,
dump?
yeah, probably a lot, quite a lot.
Quite a bit.
Yeah,
So anyway, it's sort of just a continuation.
right,
Also, in my early industrial paintings, I always liked lettering. When I was in art school, I took a class in lettering.
right.
Bernard Bresky'd be proud of me. I took a lettering class and I hated it at first because it was so technical
Hmm.
and I had to focus. And I just wasn't that focused, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
And then I'm like, the switch clicked in my head.
Hmm.
The first time I hated it. The second time I did a homework assignment for the class, I loved it. And after that, I'm like, oh, lettering's actually kind of cool. And then when I started painting my urban and my industrial scenes, like one of my early ones had a big Hess oil sign in it.
Right.
So I'm like, I started really enjoying the lettering. So I see the graffiti in my work is an extension of the industrial and commercial signage that I've always found interesting. And a lot of my work now will have both, like Nick's Blue Diner here,
Hmm.
one that I brought.
This is awesome, by the way.
Thank you. That is this has a story too. They all have a story.
Wow.
So, back in the beginning of the pandemic, before we even really realized the world was about to shut down
Hmm.
in February of 2020, we were right on the cusp.
Right.
And I did a very small 8 by 10 painting of Nick's Blue Diner. It had recently closed and there was only one tag on the building.
Hmm.
But within, a month or
Oh,
two,
they tag that shit up.
yeah, and the world had shut down,
Yeah,
and the graffiti writers were having their field day. You know,
I remember.
you remember
It was,
things that had no graffiti whatsoever were now covered just a
yeah,
few months in.
yeah. It was,
So what I did, this one I just did at the end of 2022, the fall, this one that I brought you here.
yeah.
I was like, before and after. I got to capture that
Mm,
with, completely, tricked out. And and also I just like the way the signage is starting to
hmm.
fall down. It's definitely another time capsule.
Right.
And what was interesting about painting at this site is people loved Nick. He was a beloved local figure. He ran this diner for over 50 years. Apparently he also bought a lot of real estate in the area. So when he was ready to retire, he was in good shape.
Hmm.
And it turns out he thought his son would take over the diner. What I heard on the street. Remember, this is street
Right.
history. People on the
Street talk.
street talk.
Yeah.
So people would come over and say, "Hey, did you know Nick? He was the greatest guy. He'd give, free cups of coffee, he'd give food to the homeless. You could just hang out. He was such a nice guy." And then they thought, Nick supposedly thought his son would take over the diner. His son took it over for a little while, but then closed it down. And probably he didn't have the passion for it that his father had,
Hmm.
So anyway, Nick was a beloved figure. This diner, people would come up to me constantly and tell me stories about having lunch and breakfast and everything else there. And now it's a piece of history. And within, I can see the writing on the wall, pun
Right.
intended,
Right.
but I can see the writing on the wall. They are going to knock this down soon, which is
Wow.
another
That
reason I
sucks.
went back.
Yeah.
And I am thinking of going back in the spring, if it's still standing in another month or two, and doing a larger version
Wow.
just to have it. It's a little quirky corner. I'm kind of right. I try to squeeze in between the lamppost and the cutout for the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
and try not to be in the way. So I can't do anything really big because, truth be told, I love painting large. And the large paintings take me 2 to 3 months to do
Wow.
on
So
location,
how about something? How long did that take you? Something
about
like
a
that.
month. This one,
That's not bad
no,
though.
this one's 12 by 16. It took me about a month to do.
That's not
Now,
bad.
what I can do in that time period, because the light changes, I am working with natural light. I work on one painting in the morning and a second painting in the afternoon. So the light changes completely after about two and
Right.
a half, 3 hours.
Uh-huh.
But I do, when I started painting, I block in my shadows early on. I decide where things are going to be and I stick with that. This way, I'm not chasing the light so much as I'm committing to the light. That was my original vision
Mhm.
and sticking with that. And
Right.
if you nail down your lights and shadows, even if you don't have the details, if you just nail down the lights and shadows in the beginning, especially in something complex like the train trestles that I'm part of my uh, the things I do. It's one of my regular things. I
Yeah.
love a good train trestle, crusty and rusty, and just the whole bit. And
See
then
that there goes Dannyisms again. That's Danny loves stuff rough and rugged and old, looking like it's about to fall apart. That's his thing.
oh, we have so much in
What
common.
how's he call it? Weathered.
Weathered,
Weathered.
yes,
Yeah.
crusty and
That's
rusty.
his calling card.
And I love rust. You don't know this, but I am the self proclaimed queen of rust, according to the New York Times.
Oh wow.
I was quoted
Bang
as
bang. The Rust Queen herself is here.
you have me, baby. So
Yeah.
I have always liked things that had a story to
Mhm.
tell.
Mhm.
I don't want to paint a brand new high rise.
Right.
Who needs that?
Mhm.
Take a photo and be done. I want something that has more of a story that's been lived, that's been weathered, that people have experienced, and that means something to someone.
Mhm.
And even if they walk by every day and didn't want to take a second glance, when I throw it up on a canvas and show the beauty of it, they're like, "Whoa, oh, well, maybe my hood's kind of cool after
Mhm.
all."
Yep. You're right. You're right. But let me ask you a question. Because I've asked Danny this. Well, I know the answer to Danny's question, but um, did you did your art thrive during COVID? Because I know with Danny, that's when he really started like to go. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like,
that's
yeah.
interesting.
How did your
What
experience with
my
that?
COVID experience was different. I already had a lot going on.
Right.
I'm
Right.
older than Danny,
Right. Right. Right.
so I've had a lot of exhibitions.
Right.
I've got a 35-year plus career,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I've been lucky. Where's
Yeah.
that wood? I've been lucky.
Yeah. Knock
I'm
on
not
wood.
going.
Yeah. There you go.
I've had a good career, but what was interesting during the pandemic,
Mhm.
there were places that I had wanted to paint that I had had my eye on for years,
Mhm.
but it was too much traffic, no place to park. While the world shut down, not only were the graffiti writers having a field day, I got to paint in places I could not have
Mhm.
at other times. So that was really cool. Like there's this one place in the Bronx. It's an iconic sign that says available on it, but it says "Welcome to the Bronx." It's right over after you go after what bridge is that? I think it's the JFK bridge or something, and it's on the left, and you see this "Welcome to the Bronx" sign. And I've always loved that sign. It's weathered and it says available. It's been available for almost 20 years since I moved to this part of
Mhm.
the universe. And I wanted to paint the whole street scene. And there's like warehouses and it's colorful and there's a little bridge at the end of the street and I just never could do it. And finally, I'm like, okay, I'm going back to that site. And there was like no graffiti on these warehouses
Mhm.
there, and all of a sudden it is covered, and there is no traffic, and there is plenty of parking.
Nice.
And I fit that one took me about 6 weeks over. It was a longer period of time. It was I think it was 12 by 36. I think it was a long, narrow piece and just as I was finishing it, the workers started coming back to the warehouses and coming back to work. So I really got lucky there.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it did give you access to a lot of places that, otherwise you couldn't get access to. And that's even over here, you could
Mhm.
just go anywhere. I mean, I don't know where the cops. It's like the cops took a vacation and then come back for 8 months.
And that's just fine
Yeah, it was
because,
great. It was great. I wasn't complaining.
who needs to be busted over something, that's really, in my opinion, makes the world a little more interesting, a little more colorful,
Right.
and is not most of the places that people tag, at least what I see in the places that I hang out, it's underpasses, it's overpass. It's not anything that anybody gives a a flying whatever about.
Right.
But I think the graffiti adds a pop of color, a bit of fun, and is worthy of praise. And let's face it, now everybody wants to see graffiti in galleries, not just on the
Yeah, it
streets.
changed. It changed now.
It changed
It's
now.
changed. It's definitely mainstream.
Yeah, Beyond the Streets, you know that
Yeah.
thing, just opened in London at Saatchi Gallery.
Wow.
Could you become any more establishment than that?
Hmm.
Probably not.
Listen, I knew it was crazy when Sotheby's
Mhm.
was selling graffitis. I mean, Danny was in Sotheby's last year. We're gonna be in Sotheby's this year. I mean, I don't think I should say the date. I mean, I'd have the date, but I
When
don't
you
want.
know for sure you can,
No, I have the date. I just don't want to. I just I got to talk to him first. But I'll tell you off camera.
Okay,
But
cool.
yeah, when I saw Sotheby's doing stuff like that and doing they doing hip hop now. They're doing like the
Mhm.
streetwear clothes. So like you said, it's like it's opened up.
It's opened up.
And when you guys not now you great artists have social media and y'all can just flood it with your stuff. And I mean your stuff goes everywhere.
I totally agree about social media. Somebody asked me how my practice had changed.
Hmm.
And one thing is consistent. I just want to keep painting because I absolutely love it. Is my happy place being out in the world, learning from the people I meet and greet and from the world around me. I don't think there's anything better in the whole universe, at least not for me.
Hmm.
The one thing that has changed is social media. So I am allowed to let a lot more people see my work than ever would have
Right.
before. And this has helped a lot of artists, myself included.
Hmm.
Instagram, which I am on, is probably the best uh, promotional tool I
Yeah.
have ever had. It's better than my website.
Right.
A lot more people see
You
my
probably get
stuff
they probably
on.
get more traffic on the Instagram.
Yeah, it's great. And I got a solo museum show because a curator saw my work, posted a picture on Instagram, and I simply thanked her. And she said, here's my email. Write me. And then she put me in a group show. Then she returned my sketchbooks. It was a small group show.
Yeah.
And then she came and I was like, wow, she could have just mailed them back. Well, she came to see if I had the goods. By the time she left, she had offered me a show at the
Nice.
Susquehanna Art Museum in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I
Nice.
never would have got that solo show
Right.
if it hadn't been for Instagram.
Hmm.
You know, she might have eventually reached out to me, but think of how many artists this woman must see.
Hmm.
But because I took the time to thank her and to follow up, that's the thing with social media. A lot of people don't realize just follow up. If somebody's kind enough to say, hey, and promote you, thank them.
Hmm.
It's not rocket science.
Hmm.
And I have sold work because of Instagram. I've gotten a gallery. I'm in a gallery out in Portland, Oregon, Talon Gallery. They found me on Instagram and they put me in a pop-up show in Brooklyn. And and I've also become friends with a woman who does a lot of feminist art. She's also a curator.
Hmm.
She used to live in Amsterdam. She now lives in New York City.
Nice.
I'm going to be in a show that she's curating at a gallery in Amsterdam,
Look at
and
that.
that opens on March 8th till the 25th. March 8th is International Women's
There
Day.
you go.
So she's doing this great show, and she's going to take some of my billboard paintings. You've seen some of them
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
at
So yeah. So
Basin Gallery.
basically, yeah.
And so she said, I want one, well, I actually did two of this, but one that she's taking, there was a billboard. It had a little bit of graffiti, but it was mostly a blank billboard. And then somebody put a banner over it that said abortionfunds.org. And this is to help women who are about to be screwed if they need what is should be considered health
Oh yeah.
care.
I hate that.
Oh, don't even get me going.
I hate that.
And what I really have a problem is the people who are pro birth but they ain't pro child. They may be pro birth, but they're not pro life because once the kid is born, they don't give a darn about it.
Hmm.
And they don't understand how often women need abortion, not because they got pregnant by accident, but because the fetus isn't viable, all kinds of reasons. And nobody should be telling a woman what to do with her
Yeah.
body.
And see, and that's and Valerie, that's my whole thing. I tell people this all the time. Anybody, a man, whatever,
Hmm.
whoever, should not have control over a woman's body. They should
And
not.
vice versa.
Isn't they should not be able to be like, you can't do this.
Right.
That's your temple. That's yours.
Exactly. And the
Why
same
should
thing for men.
yeah? Why should I be like, you can't do this? It's your fucking body, for
It's
God's
your
sake.
fucking body too. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, if a man needed an abortion, they'd be legal.
Yeah.
And we could get into that. But
Yeah.
anyway, my friend Echo is curating the show,
Mhm.
and she's putting stuff with, have to do with feminism and social justice. And I'm very honored to be in that. And then I'm also curating a show for a new gallery. It's online, but they're going to start doing pop-ups in the fall and beyond, called Leaky Street Gallery. And I'm working with a wonderful guy named Mark Craig, who founded this gallery. And I'm curating it'll be online. It's called Her City, and it's 17 women artists
Nice.
who work with either street art or urban art.
Mhm.
And we've got some really great women in this lineup, including Lady Pink.
Oh.
Yeah, Lady Pink. She's a
Lady
big
Pink.
deal.
I have a T-shirt with her on it from Supreme.
One of the original,
I gotta
queens.
I gotta get her on the show.
You really do. And
I have a link.
she's going to be in the show. I'm curating. Well, Mark knows her too.
Yeah.
And then Jeanette Beckman,
No,
who
okay.
is famous photographer.
Right.
She photographed the hip hop early stages, punk rockers. She's originally from London, and she's going to be in the show too. And just a bunch of other amazing women. And that will open online on March 20th and be up the whole month of April.
Mhm.
And that's at Leaky Street Gallery dot. I think it's .com, but
.com.
yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah.
I can double check that. But
Yeah.
Mark Craig is the guy who started and founded it. And he reached out to me because a friend knew my work and that I did a lot of street art. And I was in his inaugural online show, which was 25 artists from the UK and 25 artists from the United States, all of which, or was it 50-50? Excuse me. 50-50, 50 artists from the United States and 50 artists from the UK. And that was his inaugural show. Amazing. And now he's doing some more online shows, but in the fall, September, October, I'll be going over to London and I will take part in a pop-up show. I'll have some of my small paintings.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
gonna bring some of
Those
my
are
small
awesome.
paintings.
Yeah.
Might even use my hand at doing a little bit of tagging myself.
Oh, here we go.
Because here we go.
Bang, bang.
I have a tag.
Yeah.
Did you know I have a tag?
No.
My tag is Ruby87.
What?
And I've had my tag for a couple of decades. I never used it on walls, only in my paintings. As a
Right.
matter of fact, it's in, I think, every one of the paintings I brought here today. It's kind of like, where's Waldo? Where's Ruby87?
I'm looking for it right
You're
now.
going to find it. It's right behind your head, too, in the bigger one. You see Ruby87 there in
Oh,
the
I
corner?
got it.
Yep.
Bang, bang.
Yep.
We got it.
So what I did was there were times where there would be a street scene and I'd need to pop a color or something. So I just made up my own tag, Ruby87. Ruby was my shepherd mix, a wonderful dog who I rescued.
Mhm.
And she went over the Rainbow Bridge a long time ago. 87 is where we lived in New Jersey, the house I rented when I adopted her. And so Ruby87 was my first tag. Fast forward, about 6 years ago, I was painting in this abandoned golf center. It's in the North Bronx. It's across from Co-op City. It's all at 9 minutes from where I live. It's great. And it is a world apart. It's basically an urban wildlife sanctuary. There are all kinds of wildlife. There's all kinds of stuff. And there were also some homeless people living there. And I got to know some of them. And I try to help some of them out.
Mhm.
And one was having a rough time. She even had a job. Don't even get me going about corporate America and how they screw people. She had a job, but they wouldn't give her full-time hours because they didn't want to give her a free meal or benefits.
Wow.
And they never knew she was homeless. She never let them know. But she said, I got a pit bull. I got 2 cats. Can you help me out? And can you take all my animals so I can get out of here? I said, I'll help you find a place to rent with the cats.
Mhm.
I'll foster the dog. But I kept the dog.
Oh, you kept the dog.
I kept the dog, and I love that dog. Anyway, her name is Tula,
Nice.
and Tula is sometimes that's my other tag too. I sneak that in
Oh.
sometimes too. But Ruby87 is my official tag. and I only did it on a wall once. A friend of mine who I met while I was out painting, and he's a wonderful Cher. He's a wonderful graffiti artist. He saw me out there, got to know me, and then one day he said, "I can show you some places in Westchester that you don't know about in your own town." And he
Mhm.
showed me some great places, an abandoned cement factory. I did several paintings there, and then he showed up with a whole box of spray paint, and he said, "You should try this. You'd be good at it." Well, I did it once. It was a thrill. I can see why people love doing it, but I'm not very good at it. But, it's like any craft,
Right.
you gotta really practice.
Mhm.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. So anyway, I did do that one tag, and I may do a little practicing on a big
Uh-oh.
canvas I
No,
have.
see?
It could happen.
She gonna be in England getting crazy, Josh. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
part of the exhibition is they have a whole building where they're going to have the walls just tagged and murals, and all of these street artists are going to be part of
Nice,
it.
nice.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
So is that all your new stuff coming soon?
We have this show I curated, this show
Because
that I'll
because
be
you
in
you
the
just
pop
you
out.
basically segued. We was gonna talk about the women's stuff. You segued right into it, which
Yeah.
is amazing. You know what I'm saying? I give you a lot of credit. You just went right you went right
you
into
know,
it.
I've been teaching painting for 31
Yeah,
years. Before that, I waitressed. I sort of just can talk about anything. I just
yeah. You
take
just
the
went,
ball
yo.
and
You took the
run.
ball and you ran and you went 1,000 yards, girl.
It's also painting on location. I talk to everybody. I talk from rich to poor, from prince to pauper. I find everybody has an interesting story, and I want to know it. And I consider myself actually a visual historian or documentarian, a visual storyteller, really.
Right.
And I think of my paintings as telling the story about contemporary urban life.
Hmm.
And that's why I love that they take me as long as they do, because I really get to experience place. I've met all kinds of great people. Like this one place I was painting last year under the High Bridge in the Bronx.
Hmm.
Wonderful old stone bridge.
Yeah.
And most people do the walkway above. Well, there's an even cooler place under the bridge. Another like urban wildlife sanctuary, and there were all kinds of urban wildlife, little lizards, all kinds of stuff happening. But then I would see on the weekends this father and son. The son was, an adult,
Hmm.
and they'd bring their mini barbecue, and they'd, bring something to drink, and they'd have a little barbecue out there, and they'd bring their folding chairs, and this is how they bonded on the weekend. It was so nice. Anyway, so that's kind of what makes life
Yeah.
interesting for me.
And also, before we wind down, you do teach adults.
Yes, I teach adults how to paint. I've been doing that for 31 years.
Yeah.
I teach in New Jersey on Mondays. I still make the trek back to my old
Right.
town, the Visual Arts Center in Summit, New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think it's called the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey is the official name. And I love that place. They've got a wonderful gallery. They show really high-end exhibitions.
Yeah.
And then they also have a great school. And part of my education was going to the Art Students League and the National Academy in Design, both in Manhattan, both in New York City. And it was a wonderful learning experience. You've got professional artists teaching you what they know. You're with a bunch of adults, and it's just a great learning environment. And so, this is kind of New Jersey's version of the Art Students League. It's smaller, but it's still they've got quite a few classrooms actually, and they're all taught by professional working artists.
Hmm.
So that's kind of a different model than when you go to art school. I mean, those people are professional artists too, but not all of them. Some of them are
Right.
just they are professional teachers.
Right.
But when you go to a place like the Art Students League or the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey in Summit, you're learning from professional artists. They may not have degrees. I don't have a degree. I got an art certificate. I went to the least expensive art school I could find, Ducre School of the Arts. But I got a wonderful education. I had to take out some student loans, but nothing I couldn't pay back over time.
Hmm.
So I didn't get into horrible debt and then have to worry, oh my God, I better get a full time job so I can pay off all this debt. Because I never incurred all that debt, I just focused on learning how to be the best painter I could. I eventually was able to pay off that loan working part-time and also selling artwork.
Hmm.
I've always had a bit of a hybrid life where I have some kind of a part-time job, but I try to paint as much as
Right.
possible.
Yeah,
So teaching for the last 30 years has
yeah,
filled
but
that
that
niche.
that's good. Like, you know what I'm saying? You got different sources of income. It's always good because if one shut down, you got the other one, and then when they both come, shit, you fucking rich.
Well, you know,
Ching ching ching.
it's sort of like that, believe it or not. It's kind
Yeah,
of feast or famine.
yeah,
And I also ran a college art gallery for 14 years in
yeah.
New Jersey. I was the director, I was the curator, I was the one woman band
See,
there.
we were trying to get that out of you. We
Yeah,
were
so
trying
so
to,
so I did that too. So I have always had part-time jobs. Because like you say, you never know when you're going to sell your next painting.
mm-hmm,
It could be next week, it could be next year.
right,
When there have been like during the pandemic, I didn't sell anything in the beginning of the pandemic.
right,
Everything sort of shut down. Same thing during the Great Recession. I didn't sell a painting for over a year. If I was just living off my income from artwork, I would have been screwed.
mm-hmm,
But luckily, I've always had other teaching. I've taught workshops. Like I said, I ran this college art gallery. So I've always worn multiple hats, and they all sort of enrich each other. They're all basically art related.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So but but before we you know, segue to the end of this, do you ever think about doing merch?
No,
You don't like doing merch?
I just never have. It's just not one of those things I've ever done.
This would make an awesome shirt.
Well, here's the thing though. Good, true disclosure. I rarely make G clay prints, and I rarely because what if I were to reproduce somebody else's graffiti on a T-shirt or a tote bag,
Mm.
they might not like that. You know what I'm saying?
But
You can use not that these tags are trademarked, but let me just get into that for one
right, right.
second because this might be interesting
Yeah,
to your
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
audience.
definitely, definitely.
And I'm good friends with Crash, John
Yeah,
Crash Matos.
yeah.
And at one point I asked him about this there was something going on in my life and I was curious. I'm like, I know for a fact that cartoons are trademarked, right? And I asked John, I said, "You have this cartoon and character, I think it was Dick Tracy or something in one of your murals." I said, "How come you can use that if that's trademarked?" And he said, "One time use, one offs. That fair usage. There's a more technical term, but it's fair usage under the law. So he can use anything, just like I can go out in the street and paint a McDonald's sign, and McDonald's can't sue me for copyright infringement.
Mm.
Well, while most of the graffiti in my paintings is not copyrighted or trademarked, and like I said, I use my own tags, which
Right.
are not copyrighted or
Exactly.
trademarked.
Exactly.
But I'm not making reproductions. I'm not putting them on sheets or towels or tote bags or T-shirts. So I am totally within the trademark or copyright law.
Okay.
If I were to make merch with somebody else's tag on it, that could be a gray area, and I don't want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Having said that, I paint plenty of things that don't have graffiti. This is sort of one aspect of the urban world,
Mm-hmm.
but I've painted so many urban bridges and train trestles and urban waterscapes. And even to this day, I still like a good crusty industrial site.
Right. So you can, but you can do that though.
Yeah, I could do that,
Yeah.
but Anyway, mostly I just sell my paintings, and once in a while I've done some G clays, mostly as a gift to somebody.
Yeah.
Like I did one with Cher, and we became friends, and I made a G clay out of it because he did this really great cartoon of me out painting. It was
Yeah.
terrific. And he gave it to me,
Yeah.
so I wanted to give him something. So I had a G clay made with his tag in it of this painting I did, and I gave it to him. And I only made a few of these. But then it came, I was having the museum show at the Susquehanna Art Museum, and I wanted to have a museum catalog. And most small museums don't have a lot of funds. So what I did is I had a few more of these G clays. I had made one for Cher, and so I had a few more, and they were signed and numbered, and they were, archival and the whole
Mm-hmm.
bit.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who donated $500 to my catalog, which was a tax write-off, they gave it to the museum, got a G clay print. So it was a win-win.
Right.
So mostly I've done that. And I did do one other G clay print because once again, this guy asked me, it was of the houseboats. Do you know there are houseboats on Westchester Creek in the Bronx?
No.
A very cool sight.
Josh, do you know that? Josh actually he's in the Bronx. So.
All right. Well, I did that painting,
Mm.
and then it was in a solo show in 2016. I had a solo show at the Bronx Museum. I had 40 paintings, and one was this of the houseboats on Westchester Creek. And this guy Pierre, he saw the show, and then he contacted me. Said my father owned that marina. I would love. I said the paintings he saw it was sold. It's in a private collection. He goes, could you make a print of that so I could give it to my father for his birthday? And I did. So I made a few extra because if you're going to make one, you should make a few extra because it doesn't financially make sense. So I made one from him. He bought it. And then I made a few extra. And those I've sold, but there's no graffiti in those. They're just the houseboats. And I got to meet this really cool guy, Pierre. And then as I was painting just last spring,
Mm-hmm.
The University Heights Bridge, I love a good bridge over the Harlem River.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this guy's going down the water and he waves at me. And then he texts me. He says, hey, Valerie, it's Pierre. Is that you?
Mm-hmm.
I said, who else? Anyway, a really sweet guy.
Yeah, awesome.
And he's a filmmaker. Oh, God, I'm going to butcher the name of his movie. But he made a movie about that place.
Listen, I butcher names all the time.
Yeah. I think it's called Brittany Bristol is the name of the movie, and it's about this woman who lives on a houseboat there on Westchester Creek.
Nice.
And I haven't seen the movie yet, but I can't wait to. And, he's an independent filmmaker and a really cool guy. I never would have met him otherwise. So, anyway, this is what keeps me constantly like painting on site, doing what I do. I never get bored. I wake up happy it's a good day out. I'm like, oh my God, I get to paint outside. I'm like a kid on Christmas most days.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
it's wonderful. And I've met so many great people over the years.
Yeah, like you met me and Danny
Yeah,
and
exactly. And
Liz and Jamie.
that was because of the pop-up show
Yeah.
that Jim did.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Shout out to Jim.
we love Jim.
Studio 111 Brooklyn.
Love you, Jim.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think he found me on Instagram.
Wow.
Another thing that never would have happened without social media.
That's where I first met you too.
Yep. And so Danny and I are in this pop-up show together. We love each other's work. We get along.
Yeah, he's been looking
terrific.
at your work for a long time.
Yeah.
He's been like a fan of yours for a long time.
So-
Because he told me before I met you, he was
Oh,
showing stuff. I was
cool.
like, damn, that's pretty dope.
Well, I have to admit, unfortunately, I did not know about him until Jim's pop-up. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, where have you been all my life? These are
Yeah,
fabulous.
Danny came from like out of the closet and just started just going crazy, and then now he's like
He's a rock star.
yeah, he's a rock star. He just has to stay. Like I always say, you got to stay consistent.
Yeah. No.
And he'll get what he wants.
And that's really true. Besides teaching painting, I teach adults. I give a lot of, I guess I kind of mentor some of my better students. Shout out to Laura,
Shout out to Laura.
who's in the current show at Basin Gallery
She
in
sold
Red
her
Hook.
first. She sold her first painting at Basin
Yep,
Gallery.
sold
Congratulations.
two. As
Oh,
a
sold
matter-
two. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was there for one. I
She
didn't see the
sold
other one.
two, and
Great.
she is one of my star students. She is so talented, and she came to see my show. I was in a 3-person show at Basin Gallery, and she started talking to Liz, and I said, "Oh my God, you've got to see Laura's work." And I just show her something on Instagram, and Liz is like, "Oh my God, I need another person to show with Danny," and she's like, "You're in." And that was it. It was
Nice.
great. And Laura had the
choice.
time of her life.
Great choice.
And you could see how talented she
Yeah,
is.
it's a great choice.
She's really wonderful.
And she's very nice.
Oh, she's a lovely human.
Very nice.
Her family came in from Tennessee.
Yeah.
She lives in New Jersey. That's why she could take
Oh,
my
okay.
classes in Summit.
Okay.
But her family's in Tennessee. They came out for it. Her college friends came out for it. It was a big deal. And I just shout out to Liz and Jamie who run Basin Gallery.
Yep. Shout out Basin Gallery.
They just opened last June, and they are already becoming a destination place.
Mhm.
And they love the kind of art that you and I like.
Oh,
Urban
yeah.
art,
Yeah.
street art.
And they know how to throw a goddamn great party.
Oh my God. Do they throw the best party?
I was so drunk, bro. I was so drunk at the end of the night.
And they spin tunes and they always have food
Yeah,
and they're just lovely. Both of them are lovely. And they're long-term friends, Jamie and
yeah.
Liz. And isn't that a wonderful thing
We got to
too?
get Josh over there.
Yeah, Josh, you got to check out the and what a great and they took a storefront and turned it into that beautiful
Yeah,
space.
it's amazing.
They did a great job for two women who have never run a gallery
Oh,
before.
they doing amazing stuff.
They're doing amazing stuff. So I guess the wrap up here or the takeaway
Yeah,
here for Danny and for my wonderful student Laura, and even for what I've learned, and for Liz and Jamie, is yeah, believe in yourself, follow your dream. If you love something, just do it. Don't let anybody deter you. Because if you stay focused and you keep doing the best you can, eventually you're going to get somewhere. Because that's what happened for me. And like I told you, I went to the cheapest art school I could find. I didn't come from money. I came from crazy people. I'll leave that for another time. I did
I
not
came
have
from crazy.
I'm
That's where I
talking
came from.
I'm talking in and out of mental hospitals crazy.
Sheesh.
So I had a rough childhood, but art was my happy place and all of a sudden it was time to go to college. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do here? I went and I to community college, took some art classes and said, "Oh, I'm really meant to do this." And then found the cheapest art school I could find, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
35 plus years of having a career painting urban and industrial
that's
landscapes.
amazing.
Yep.
And on that note, we're going to end this show. Where can they find you, Valerie?
Well, the best place is my name, Valerie Larko. No E at the end of Valerie.
Yeah.
Valerie Larko, Larko, at Instagram. It's just my name. And then my website is myname.org,
Mm.
excuse me, .com, valerilarko.com. And then I'm also on Facebook. I'm starting to mess around a little bit with
Yeah, you should.
TikTok,
Yeah, you should. You
but
should.
mostly
It'll help.
Instagram. Instagram is where I post all my work in progress, all my new work, and you know, and keep if you follow me, you'll find out when my shows are. I
Yeah.
guess that's the best thing
Yeah.
to do. I also do send out a newsletter occasionally. So if somebody really liked my work and wanted to keep up on everything new, you can email me and I'll add you to my
Nice.
email list for my
You
newsletters.
get that email blast, peoples.
Yep. Not that often, though. I don't believe in spamming people.
Mm-hmm.
Only when I got something important to do and
Nice.
say.
So you can find me on Instagram. You can find the podcast on Instagram. Polo Parato or the Super P Podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're everywhere. We're on every podcast provider. If you pay $5, like I always tell people, you can get this episode today
All
after
right.
Josh sends it to me. If not, you're gonna get it not this week, but next week. Because I think Hugh Tech, I have an interview with somebody else. He comes on before you, and then you're gonna.
Cool.
So you got like 2 weeks. Um, yeah. Hey Josh, can you pass me my broken phone for a second? I gotta give a couple shout outs before I end this thing. I have to.
All right.
My
You've
my
got.
my friends from Fashion Week. I got yeah. My phone is broke. Yeah, that's my phone. First of all, I'm gonna show you guys on camera how fucked up my phone is now. So so you see Josh, this is tape. This is tape.
When I picked it up, I was like, that's looking
Yeah, look at the back of the phone. You see the back, right? You can see through this. This came off. Now the camera doesn't even work. It's a piece of tape that's holding the camera together. This part came off. It dropped last night, and this part came off totally. So I'm just showing you. This is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah. You
This
need a
is
new
this
phone,
this
dude.
is what I'm dealing with. You know what I'm saying? This is crazy. And you would think on and you can't silence it if you just notice.
I need to go to where you're going.
Yo. But yeah, I want to say shout out to Victoria. That's my friend from Fashion Week. Sakura. Awesome, awesome, awesome girl. Um and then let me tell you a really quick story and then we're gonna end the show. So at Fashion Week, it was some girl from Kentucky that I don't know her name. I thought she was cool.
Mhm.
She even drunk out of my champagne glass.
Woo woo.
Thought she was super hella cool. Bro, they did the whole Instagram, like let's exchange Instagram. So it was like me, it was Victoria, Sakura, and some other. I think it was some other guy. I gotta get. I'll get the other guy's name. But yeah, long story short, so they doing all the exchange things. I give her the phone. I guess my phone was so jacked up. She followed everybody but me.
Oh,
That's the fashion week shallow stuff.
I got it.
This is what they
She
just.
didn't realize what a big deal you are,
It's
sweetheart.
fine. It's fine. I just thought it was funny. I just thought it was funny. This is about like when you go to fashion week, you get this shallow people like they're so cool and they want to know what you do, and then all of a sudden they drink out of your champagne glass and then they don't follow you.
And they diss you.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, she followed everybody else. I don't know. Maybe I just looked funny. Who knows? I had on all red, so
Well,
go
you should have been
go figure.
memorable.
Oh, and guys, watch Wu Tang and American think an American Tale on Hulu on episode 1 and 3. My clothes make an appearance. I did product placement for them. They used my clothes for the show.
Cool.
So yeah, episode 1, my hat is in there, and episode 3, my Coogee sweater is in there. I posted it online because you gotta promote yourself. So yeah, check that out. That's on there. I have a interview from Voyage LA that's up. You can get the link. Where did I put the link? On Twitter. On my Twitter, Polo Pirate or Polo Pirata. I don't know. I be forgetting everything. I'm getting old. But yeah, Valerie, thank you for coming.
And thank you so much. It was such an honor to
You know,
share my story and
yeah,
really enjoy
it was
having some more time to get to know you better.
yeah, so we'll definitely do Danny. We've had Danny on twice. We'll get him on again.
Yeah.
I just gotta drag him over here.
I think Danny and I should do a podcast
I think
together.
you I think you'll need to do a co-show. You know what I'm saying, and actually do a piece together. I think that'd be amazing.
That would be great.
And oh, shout out to Douglas, my homeboy Douglas. I didn't forget about you from Fashion Week. Shout out to Spaglow. I saw him in Fashion Week. I see a lot of people. Lucky Church. Nice to see you. Saw him at the last show I went to. Okay, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm babbling. I will see you guys later. Be safe. Ciao, Supi Podcast. We're out of here. Yeah,
That was great.
it was awesome.
That was great.